Hello everyone, this is Kimberly Fox. I am Kimbo Originals, the Forgetful Crafter. And today I thought I'd go through how I make my journals. So I have some papers picked out. I've got my bags. So I just use sandwich bags because they're nice and light and great for travel, you know, for other countries, you know, if you're going to another country or what have you. So I have 7 bags, and I've already colored them because this part's kind of messy. I just take some ink, like I had some mixed media ink, different colors. I used this one. This is a carrot, and I think I used poppy, and then I used a distress ink, which is aged mahogany, and I did a few drops of that, mixed it in some alcohol, and then just spritzed it on the bags to give them some color on the sides. And I also did the inside of the bag so it's not just a plain brown. So let's go through the paper that I've chosen. Excuse me. This, I do not know who made this sheet. It's a 12 by 12. This was given to me, so I don't know where it came from. This is a scrap from Heidi Grace Designs. This is the Snowflake Park Dots with Flocking. And I might use some of these 5 by 7 matte pads, me and my big ideas. And then I've got this paper pack by DCWV. And this is Maps, Text, and Ledgers. And this goes with that also. And then the other one is a travel by DCWV. And yeah, the travel stack. So those are the papers. I don't know if I'll use all of these papers, but definitely some of them. So what I like to do is, excuse me, is I get my bags, I get them all colored, and then I take a bone folder and go across them to flatten them down because they do get a bit wrinkly, and I've done that. So now I'm going to glue, or I'm not going to glue them yet. But this one's going to be pretty small. I think it's around 6 by 6. Yeah, it's around 6 inches. So it'll be 6 inches by about 4 3/4, somewhere in there. So none of these bags are exactly the same. So, but that's a good guess. So I'm going to pick out some matte cardstock. I think I'll just use some brown, and this is just the craft sheets by Paper Studio, and some black cardstock that's the same by Paper Studio, and maybe a few other colors, and everything's by Paper Studio. So I'm going to go ahead and get one of these sheets out and get this, excuse me, and get this cut. So I said that was around 6 inches, yes? I think that's what I said. So here's my measure. Okay, so yeah, 6 inches when it's not folded. And when it is folded, it'll be approximately 3 inches because I like to have a little extra that goes underneath the pocket itself. And about 4 3/4. So I'll do it that size. I guess this one is a little, yeah, see how it sticks out on the sides more? This one's pretty even. So you just kind of go along with what you have to work with. So I do that 3 inches wide. So that'll be, just kind of make sure, yep, that'll be good enough. Yeah, so 3 inches that way. And then, so I said about 4 1/4 inches, or 4 3/4, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that for the first one. And just lay it in place and see if that's going to be good enough, and it is. And with this folded up, that'll be perfect. So then what I do is I like to color my paper on the edges. So I'm going to use some vintage photo on the edge of my paper. Oh, not that one. That's my old one. Here we go. Now, you don't have to color your edges if you don't want to. I just like to. I like the texture that it gives my pages. And I just do the edge. So then I'll get some double-sided tape on here. And I just put double-sided tape on one edge, and then I use wet glue on the rest of it. Oops. This. So make sure that's down good. This is a Tim Holtz poker tool. Oh, and the bags, the lunch bags, I just got those from Walmart. So I'm going to line this up to where I want it. And then peel this backing off. Take that one section down. And I'm going to grab my art glitter glue. And glue the rest of this down. Just go around the edge. It doesn't take a lot of glue to get this glued down. And then just give that a press. Okay. And I'll take this piece here. And I use Elmer's stick glue on this side. So I know that this is going to cover this area here, so I can just glue this section down. And I do use quite a bit of glue on that with the glue sticks. And then I glue down any loose pieces, like these edges here are sometimes loose. And just glue those down. And I usually use the excuse me, the red line tape. Here's some. And I take my red line tape and I go down the edges of where my pocket is going to be. I'll find the end. Here we go. And I don't know if you can see this, but there's a little line right here along the bottom of the bag. That's where I take the tape up to. So I have a little bit of a lip that's loose. And that seems to help get my tags inside a little bit easier. So I just do that red line glue on both sides along the edge. And this red line tape takes 24 hours for it to set fully. But I'm not going to peel that back yet. I just want to get it ready. Because the next thing I'm going to do, which I forgot to grab, I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I got my We Are Memory Keepers tool out for bookmaking. So these just screw in. And this piece is concave and convex. So we put the convex side in. Put your little screws in. Not super tight. I leave them loose a little bit. And then I'm going to slide my book page inside here. I take it all the way down to the bottom here. And I do my best to make sure I have it centered on my fold line. And what I'm going to do to make it easier for everyone to see, because we're not going to see it, it's going to be on the inside. So I'm going to mark this, my fold, so you can see what I'm doing better, I hope. So I'm just going to mark this line. It's not perfectly straight, but that's okay. So hopefully you guys can see that. And I'm going to get this back in and now pull this all the way to the bottom. And there I can see that blue line so much better. And I'm going to poke some holes in this because I'm going to stitch this journal together. So I've got 9 holes, and that's what I'm going to punch. And there's my holes. So I know exactly where my next holes go for each page. So that makes it really, really easy to determine where the holes go. So I'm going to move this tool aside. Okay, so that's done. So now I need a piece for that. So let's measure this side. And this side should be about 3 inches. Oh, this one's a little bit bigger. So this one is about 3 1/8 by 5. That won't fit because it's too big. So let's cut out another piece. I said 3 1/8 by 5. So we've got 3 1/8. And I'm going to cut this at 4 7/8. This 5 is a little bit too big. And I'm going to ink this up with the vintage photo distress ink. Double-sided tape on this. Press that down. Get this backing started. Get my piece back out. You see, this is going to lay down in there. Now I do have an edge here, so I want to ink that. Here's my piece. Excuse me. And I'm going to lay this right in place. And that's going to have just a slight border around it. Not much of a border. That looks good. And then glue it down. Now you don't have to use wet glue. I just like to use wet glue. Seems to hold a bit better for me. I live in a very dry climate, so I like my things to hold well. So far, so good. And we'll give this a press down. So that's what I do on all of the pages. And then this back side, we're going to do the same thing. So this one is 6 by 4 3/4, and that'll give me a little bit of a border. So I'm going to cut this at 5 7/8 by 4 1/4, or 4 3/4. 4 3/4, 5 7/8. So here's 5 7/8. Let's do the 4 3/4 first. Make sure my paper is large enough. It is. And then the 5 and, let's see, yeah, 5 7/8. And we're going to ink the edges on this. Double-sided tape. And get it started. And get this down on our book. This way you can line it up by just starting that tape. Now these journals with these bags, everything is not going to be straight because the size of the bag is never the same. Even when you measure and do all that, like you can see how this looks a little crooked. It's just because of the bag itself. It has nothing to do with how you cut the paper. So that's, if you're one of those people that's very persnickety, this is not going to work. You've got to learn to let that go. So we'll get this glued down. Now I like to use a towel because it catches any ink that might, any glue that might seep out from the edges. And then I can go back and glue little parts that has not glued down yet. Okay, so there's that. So now it's time to pick out some paper. Now, I always do the front last. These are just the pages. So I am going to use this on the front, I think. That's kind of what I'm thinking now. So I'm going to set that aside so it's not in the way. And pick out some cardstock. Let's see. This one might be kind of neat because it's got the lines on it, and I like the postage stamp that's already on there for me. And I lay this down and I bring my ruler in, and I think I'm going to cut this at 3 inches by 4 3/4. So I know I want the stamps in there, so I'm going to flip this over, line it up at the 3-inch mark, slice, and then, did I say 5 inches? I forgot what I said. Oh, 4 3/4. 4 3/4. And you can keep all of these scraps because you can use these for your inserts. Now we're going to ink this, and I can use some green, some blue, and a little bit of red. So I think that's what I'll do. And I'm going to use some Wild Honey first. These are all distress inks. And some peeled paint. And when I use different colors, I don't do it all the way around. I just add a little bit of color here and there. And that also will help add depth to your pages. And I want some faded jeans and some barn door. Let's use the barn door first. Just a little bit here and there. That looks good. Just a couple of spots. And the same with the faded jeans. I'm going to put a little bit next to this stamped image. A little down in the corner. And I think that looks good. Now I am not going to glue this in place yet because I might want to decorate this with a little something. So I'm just going to wait on that. So I'm going to stick this inside my bag. That one's ready to be glued on with some decoration. So now I'm going to work on this piece here, and I think I'll use this paper. This paper is really cool, and I'm going to measure that out. So this is going to be at 2 7/8 by 4 1/2. I'm going to get out my other Fiskars chopper. So I want that postcard part to show. So no, I don't. I want this part to show. So I forgot what I said. So I'm going to do this one at 4 5/8. So I need this to be 2 1/2 inches wide. And 4 5/8, I think is what I said. And that's going to go like that. Yep, that's it. And again, keep all your scraps because we'll use those later. So I'm going to do some inking on this. I'm going to do some, let's see, what color this time? I'm going to do some faded jeans and maybe some honey brown, because that will help the faded jeans turn this color to match the paper a little bit more. It's a gray blue, the paper. And I do go over the whole page just to kind of give it some smudgy look, like it's old. And I think I'm just going to go down this side. Oh yeah, that helped that quite a bit. Took a lot of that stark blue out, and I like that. And I'm going to use a little bit of barn door over here because of the red that's on the paper. And there's that piece. I'm going to go ahead and put, I should do that to the other one. I'm going to go ahead and put some double-sided tape along the top edge so that's ready for me to put in when I'm ready. So I'm going to pull this other one out and get some double-sided tape on that one. And also, using your double-sided tape like this helps it last longer. Okay, so these two pieces are going to go inside here for decorating later. Now let's do the back of this one. So let's pick out something. This is a pretty neat piece. So that one is going to be 5 1/2 by 4 5/8. 5 1/2 by 4 5/8. So I want the flowers on there. So I'm going to flip this over, and I said 5 1/2 and 4 5/8. 4 5/8. I hope I'm right. Yes. 4 5/8. I check myself a lot because I have a tendency to forget. And that fits in there perfectly. I think I need to trim it just a little bit. I don't have enough border at the top and bottom. And that's easy to do. And this, when I take a little bit off, I just guess. I just lay it back on there, and that looks much better. So we're going to ink this again with the barn door, just a little bit around where that flower is, and some peeled paint. Excuse me. I'm going to do some peeled paint along this edge here because of the greenery that's on the paper already. So if you're not sure about how to use different colors with your paper, that's kind of a good thing to go by. Just go by where the color is on your paper, and that'll help you with coloring. And then you can do that with just plain paper once you kind of get the hang of it. And again, vintage photo around the edge and a little on the paper itself to give it that aged look. And this is going to look fabulous on that page. Very good. Because, you know, you might want to, you know, maybe you want to stick a brad or something there in the center of that flower, and you can't do that if you go ahead and glue it on there. So that's why I like to do my pages and then decorate them afterwards to figure out where I want things. And I try to, I don't always, but I try to use my double-sided tape on the top of my page or my printed decorative paper. So this page, the front and back, is ready to be decorated. So we're going to set this one aside. And we're going to grab another bag out. Glue everything down. It's the same process. Just going to glue all this down. So what I do, I'm at the end of my glue, and there's still some down in the bottom. So instead of throwing that away, I dig it out and spread it on. And I just use my bone folder. The bone folder is great for that. That way I don't have any of this glue at all that's going to waste. So I'm just going to continue doing this with all of my journal pocket pages, and then I'll come back when I finished.